Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us today. We're super excited to chat through this topic. We're here for strategic success, drive recruiting accountability for brokerage managers. My name is Jenna, and I'm the growth team here at Brokerkit. And we have Jim Turner. He's our CEO and co-founder. Here at Brokerkit, we help residential real estate brokers ramp their growth by improving their agent recruiting and retention. You all joined us here for a purpose. I know you saw some of the information ahead of time. The challenge that we're all here to talk about is you're not hitting your new agent recruiting goals and you're having a hard time getting your office managers to recruit. We're going to be diving into this topic and giving actionable strategies that you can use to overcome this challenge. Before we kind of jump in a little bit more, I do want to let you know that we are recording this webinar. We'll be sharing that later. And we'll also have a resource that we'll share at the end that will go through a lot of these things we're going to talk about through the challenge. Our promise here today, your entire leadership team working together collaboratively to consistently hit your recruiting goals and hit your annual brokerage growth plan. We're going to be talking through many things that we've heard from bigger brokerages that have been working to get their managers recruiting. We're going to be talking through those strategies and with actual applicable things that you can do in your brokerage to help your managers recruit and hold them accountable for that recruiting. Andrew Carnegie said, "Teamwork is the fuel that allows common people to attain uncommon results." Working together is going to be the key to getting recruiting and hitting those goals and making sure everyone is accountable for their piece of the recruiting process.
This webinar is really focused on how do you make 1+1 = 4 versus 2, right? And it all goes back to the team and driving kind of synergy in the team.
All right, with that, we have 5 hot principles to share with you all, and I'll have Jim go ahead and take it away.
Setting clear expectations. You've probably heard you can't manage what you can't measure. Well, do you know what to measure? To know what you're measuring, you need to have goals. Number one, strategic clarity, because we regularly talk to people that say, okay, I want to recruit, but then we start asking questions. Okay, who are you looking for? Why? Right? And it's not fully thought through. So to me, it needs to start with a clear strategy for your brokerage, which is what is your core focus of your brokerage? What is your target market? Like in terms of buyers and sellers, but also agents. And target could be, specific types of transactions, specific types of people, geographic areas, things of that nature. The next one would be, once you know your focus in your target market, what is unique about you? Like, what are your differentiators? What sets you apart from other people out there that is something that those agents in that target market are really going to value? We don't hear enough, which is what are your core values of your organization? What are the values you expect that you live by and set the example, but you expect the agents to live by as well, and the office staff, right? Because to know who's a good fit for your culture, you need to know what your culture is, have clear values associated with that culture, and have a conscious effort at kind of propagating that. The next is more specific and tactical, but like an ideal agent profile, right? So, and it's hard to know that if you don't know those other things, right? But if you know your market, you know what's unique, you know what are true core values, then you can start to think of like, okay, what is the true ideal agent profile? So things that you need to be looking at are new versus experienced agents, production stats, potentially, like they've sold between 6 and 12 units in the last year. Their tenure in real estate. Are you looking for people that are in the business at least a year, 1 to 3 years, 3 to 5, 5+, right? And also average sales price, right? If you're, if you're flat fee based, maybe you don't care about, you want somebody who can crank volume. If you're more luxury, you're focused on people that can, represent you effectively in, larger transaction sizes. So that would be first on make sure you have a clear strategy. What are the goalposts you're aiming for? The next is deciding on, okay, if you have managers, you need to give them a territory essentially to prospect from a recruiting perspective. And they need to have, so say you're in a large market with, if you look at like a Phoenix or a Houston, they have a large metro area with a lot of agents in it, literally tens of thousands. What you don't really want to do is give them a list of every agent in Houston or Phoenix and say, like, have at it, right? You need to kind of drill it down to, okay, you own this office, right? And note that there are some virtual brokerages which will say, like, I'm not focused on this. But I would say when we talk to brokerages, most are focused on that office structure or branch structure and people around it, right? So physically, the geographic boundaries, like set a territory, is whether it be zip codes, counties, or some kind of radius around an office, drill down to that, and then use things like back to that agent profile, what can you drill down on? Like number of units and things like that. And also, we have an integration with Realytics. They have for some additional predictive analytics, which are super helpful. And I would just say, in addition, limit their ability to see that things are not applicable. Okay. If you're asking someone to recruit and you give them a spreadsheet with, 40,000 people in it, you're distracting them from what they need to focus on. If you give them a list of 500 people, 1,000 people, and say, these are the people you need to develop a relationship with, it's going to keep them focused. Okay. Now, a couple of things around this with Brokerkit. So let me just talk about this via our, data integration. You can pull in data from Broker Metrics or Market View Broker. This is talking MLS data specifically. We'll talk about other lead sources too, but let's just focus on, if you're looking for experienced agents, one of the benefits of, real estate is you have access to the agents in the marketplace, their contact information, and their sales data. You can pull in via searches this information from Broker Metrics, Market View Broker. With our Realytics integration, you add in an API key and you can target within an MLS specific things like where they reside and their units, import it into the system, and then drill down on, okay, I want to focus on the people that sold between 6 and 12 units. And then these three are really via the Realytics integrations. Rookie rating, current switch risk is the machine learning AI on how likely they are to switch, listing effectiveness grade, 5-year batting average, where they're located in proximity to your office. It'll automatically, with Realytics, tag you to your closest offices. So think of this, right? You can just say, like, whoever owns that office, filter on these, and that's it. You don't need to look at 40,000 agents. Focus on the people that are like around your office, then drill down from there on production, rookie rating, things like that. And also dates, right? Like, when did they start? What's the tenure that's a good fit? And it goes back to what's a good fit for your ideal agent profile, which ties to kind of the core values and the market and whatnot. So think of these as some ways to do it. Also, we've added in some features for the bigger brokerages. Some of these are pretty recent, but when you go into account settings, we've set it where you can basically allow them to see everything, only what's assigned to them, or what's unassigned or assigned to them. Now, that's going to keep the managing brokers from being worried about entering their data and another office manager nearby seeing it and kind of poaching their recruits. But it keeps them from seeing everybody in the market, keeps them really focused on that more concise list that they really need to focus on. Okay, so that's territories and agent assignment. Now let's talk about, okay, you gave them a territory. So you've got Jane, who manages kind of like I'm in Denver. Let's just say the Golden Branch, right? Jane owns the Golden Branch. You have set a very clear territory for her. Here's your 1,000 people you need to get to know Jane. Now you need to just tell her, okay, what is the expectations that you do with this list? To me, it's best to start with just coaching around, like, keep it more general, right? Like, these are just, at the end of the day, these are people that you need to develop a relationship with. And the list that's shorter and more focused makes this much easier for people to get their head around. Now, if you're trying to recruit them, there's a certain portion of the people that are going to be open to it now, which is maybe, 20% of them. But the fortune's in the follow-up. The key is that you develop a relationship where they know, like, and trust you, so that when they have a bad day or something has changed and they have a catalyst or a compelling event to make a change in their life, you're the person they call because you know, like, and trust them, and you're following up with them. Okay. So the key is, don't tell them, hey, go make 100 calls a day or something like that. It's, here's your list of people you need to develop a relationship with. I guess the next would be, how do you initiate those lead sources? Okay. Or how do you initiate those relationships, which is lead sources? But the lead sources are really just avenues to get to know these people. The first one I would start with is offline events. It's underappreciated, but being involved in association events, partner events with, like, if you have lender or escrow partners or whatnot, open houses, great way to meet other agents. Offline events, always great to start a relationship in person and always the easiest. The next would be, inbound leads of some source. That could be referrals from your agents, people looking to get in the business via job postings. There could be ads, organic or paid social, or PPC ads to, like, try to find hand raisers, so to speak. Now, if you're looking for experienced agents, the referrals probably work as an inbound lead source, but the majority will not. That's going to be focused on new agents. The third venue is just really outbound recruiting. And if you're looking for experienced agents, And in the market of today, we hear a lot of people saying that's really what we're trying to focus on, because those are the people that are proven and can deal with a little tougher market. Outbound recruiting, which is really referrals, that MLS data we just talked about. Co-op agents is another great source. And then, if you're looking for the newer agents, real estate schools can work. And then just events. Like, they could be training events, they could be associated with the association or ones you run in your office. Once you're clear on, hey, here's your people, here's how you should get to know them, which is really their lead sources, then you need to provide clarity around messaging to them. Messaging templates and scripts for calls and appointments. As you scale up, if you want everybody to kind of be able to really speak well to that value proposition. And the key is what works best in the marketplace is these days multi-touch, multi-channel outreach. So like if you just send like some marketing email and an HTML template like quarterly, you're not going to get a lot of people replying back saying like, hey, where can I sign up? It's really going to be like communications that are very conversational, where these branch managers are reaching out directly to someone to start a conversation with them. And if they are around things like a recent transaction, it's going to be a lot easier to kind of start a conversation. But the fortune's in the follow-up, right? People are busy. You got to cut through the noise. So it may take kind of repeated follow-up. The other key is so that's multi-touch. Multi-channel is key too, because some people will respond to text. Some people will answer their phone. Some people are more email people. You got to kind of meet people where they are. We recommend kind of a multi-touch, multi-channel outreach: call, email, text, and social media. All of them. Social, we believe, is really the most underappreciated one. At the end of the day, you want to have a conversation. A call is the best, but the other avenues are great ways to kind of at scale try to warm them up to get them on that call. Now, know that in Brokerkit, we have a campaign library where we've designed specifically around these. If I go in here and I look for co-op agents, we've got one specifically for this scenario. You'd import recent transactions. We have a service where we can help you with this too, as an add-on to the software, where we'll run these campaigns for you, but it's reaching out, in a conversational way to start a conversation. And so someone could be triggering these campaigns for them, or they could be themselves as a branch manager, but you're just reaching out all these agents, this is an email, this is a text, call scripts and whatnot, but it's giving them some structure. Now, I would recommend anybody that's leveraging these campaigns from Brokerkit, you should copy them down and edit them to really reflect your unique value proposition. They're going to be far, far more effective than if you just go with the straight templates, but it's going to give you a framework for what's working out there. Messaging precision, define goals. Give them specific goals around results and activities. We frequently, have discussions with people, and it's like, yeah, I need to accelerate my recruiting efforts this year. We need to kind of pick things up. Attrition's gone up a little more than we thought. We need to pick things up. And it's like, okay, well, and then they have branch managers, and then you ask, okay, well, how many people are they expected to recruit per month? And is this in writing somewhere? And frequently the answer is, oh, well, it's a little less formal than that. We give them some help. But the folks that have clear expectations around, you're expected to hire 2 people a month and have this, and the leading indicators of those, like appointments, offers sent, or calls, things like that, you're much more likely to hit the mark, so to speak, when there's clear goals. The last thing is, one of the things we've seen work exceptionally well is document all this in a recruiting playbook. Take all this. I mean, essentially, Jenna is going to give you a checklist at the end, but like take this. This is the table of contents, all the things we've talked about. Now we're going to go into kind of the next one, which is make it lucrative and fun. The first thing is, make it lucrative. So, if you want to understand how people are driven, what their motivations are, look at what their incentives are. Right? If you're asking them to recruit, is there an incentive for them? This is another question we frequently ask, which is there variable compensation tied to these goals? Like, so if you set goals, like what's in it for them to actually achieve them? Is there upside? What tends to work well is variable comp, some kind of bonus structure tied to the recruiting, either the number of hires or their production, or both, with accelerators on the compensation goes up as the results go up. Activity equals results, having a portion of it tied to specific activity on offers sent. If you look at it, think of it as a funnel, right? You want production. To get that, you need producing agents. To get that, you need hires. To get that, you need offers. To get that, you need appointments. To get that, you need calls, right? So push it up as far as possible to drive that behavior. And the other one is just referral comp for your agents. Use your agents, it's a cultural thing. Some brokerages prefer for agents to actually fully recruiting, right? And there's some brokerages out there where agents can have a downline, right? And they're getting comped on it. The more kind of traditional brokerages probably prefer more of a referral model. But the end of the bottom line is the people that are doing this really well and have it dialed in, some kind of referral program and compensation for those agents. We frequently hear people say that's their best channel. So if you're not leveraging that, we recommend that you really strongly get that in place. And then again, with Brokerkit, we have a whole referral system kind of built into the system. It's kind of hidden in here. All Brokerkit customers, like basically when you add the agents and retention, you can invite them and they're going to get their own referral page where they can send you referrals. They'll drop into your new leads. You'll get an email letting you know you have a new lead. You can trigger campaigns on it. It gives you a way gives them a dashboard to track the referrals, gives you some workflow to track, paying out compensation. But the bottom line is, get the compensation plan in place, train them, and just constantly reiterate it. And one of the questions I get frequently is, okay, what should that referral comp plan be? My answer is a little different now with the age of AI than it used to be, which is, I don't know if you know this, but if you go out to ChatGPT and ask what the comp plan is for different brokerages and including their referral plan, it will tell you very specifically. So I recommend you go out there if you're thinking about refining your plan or creating a plan, go look what the competition is doing, right? And you can easily look that up. It's enlightening to do that. That's the lucrative part, but you still got to make it fun, right? Using the carrot versus the stick constantly tends to work a little better. So at the end of the day, celebrate those at the top of their game. We strongly recommend having some kind of leaderboard that's public with all of those manager or branch managers showing their results in terms of hires and production and activity leading to those, which is going to be those offers, appointments, and calls, as well as for referrals from agents, and just celebrate them, make it public and celebrate them, okay? And we've designed essentially in Brokerkit, if you go to reports, the activity report is designed specifically around this so that you can see for all of your managers, what's the production they've brought in? How many people have they hired? What's in their pipeline? What are the appointments set and logged? What's their activity? What kind of territory is assigned to them? Whether you're doing this in Brokerkit or in a spreadsheet, make it public, right? And really don't focus on the people at the bottom, calling them out in public. Focus on the people at the top, really celebrating them. That will drive, right, accountability via peer pressure, because people at the end of the day, when they see a leaderboard, they want to be at the top in front of their peers. The other one is monthly promotions and contests tied to achieving the goal, right? So what can really put it over the top is specific kind of promotions where the person at the top is going to get kind of a dinner for two, or a golf vacation or some beach vacation or some kind of promotion. At the end of the day, what that role is, that team leader role or the office manager, it really is a B2B sales role if you think about it, right? It's not like recruiting in other industries like corporate recruiting where you have somebody in HR that's just working job postings and setting up interviews. It is a B2B sales role to basically hire these people, essentially. Ultimately, these managers are salespeople, right? And great salespeople thrive on competition, and that's going to make it more fun, and it's going to get them excited to participate. That's going to be, let's see, hot principle number 2. Let's dive into hot principle number 3. The next one is just make it easy for them, right? If you want people to comply with what you're asking them, right? You give them goals, you got to make it easy for them to hit it, right? And just remove friction, right? Let's just start with the first one. Allow adequate time. This is one that we hear a lot. They'll say, well, I can't get my managers to recruit. And it's like, okay, what else do you have them doing? Well, they're asking to recruit, but then they're also onboarding new agents. They're kind of a sales manager. They're doing deal doctoring. They're doing all this. And then they say, and then you ask, okay, well, how many recruits do you want them to do? Oh, I'd love for them to bring in 5 a month. And it's like, okay, well, how many hours do you think it's going to take? We did a webinar last year where we asked this question on average. How many hours is it taking to recruit a new agent? And it came out to be about 15 hours on average. Okay. So if you give that manager a goal of hire 2 people a month, that's 30 hours of work, right? Are you giving them enough time to do that given their other responsibilities? The next one would be provide leads to them. right? Make it easy, right? So focus the outreach on higher intent warm leads. So back to those different ways to start a relationship or lead sources, referrals, co-op agents, real estate schools, events, job postings, or highly targeted outbound. Like help them find these people that are most likely to be interested in someone reaching out to them. Higher intent, better fit means it's going to be easier for them to start a conversation with them. The next one is the MLS data. Showed you kind of how that works with Realytics, also Broker Metrics, Market View Broker, but setting territories, giving them a specific territory, giving them, hey, we're looking for this list of people. It's going to go much better than if you just say, hey, have at it on anyone. The next one is make it easy for them to send personalized messages at scale. One of the other things we hear, I touched on this earlier, but what doesn't work great these days is just send out some newsletter style email quarterly and expect people to say, hey, sounds good. What tends to work is those conversational messages, which means they really need to be personalized. But then how do you do that at scale, right? As you try to ramp this up, you need to figure out a way to do it at scale. Within Brokerkit, some keys that we've added to do personalization at scale. Number one, the campaigns I showed you, they're all written in a conversational personal style. Think short messages, 2-3 sentences, and on a question, so it looks like it's a real person reaching out to them. They're much more likely to reply. The other one is a couple of newer features that are really designed around mass personalization. It works in email and text, but we have video recorder, so you can upload professional video you have, but they can go in and just record a video, kind of like mini version of BombBomb built in. Personal videos stand out. They're much more likely to click them, engage, and watch them. The other one is AI Assist. This is an integration with OpenAI's GPT-4, but if you can go in and write personal messages, and we give you some prompts, but you can go in and update it with very specifics around like with your brokerage name, and I'm looking to recruit agents that have these characteristics, and maybe we're looking at recruiting from this other brokerage. If you edit that in there, it's really going to write these messages for you in a highly personalized style. When you look at it, essentially OpenAI has ingested all the content on the internet, right? The major brands out there have a lot of content on the internet. So it has a pretty good idea, less so probably on an independent, but like if you're with a franchise, it probably knows your value proposition. And if you specify it, it will write it. And if you say, I'm this brokerage looking to recruit from this, it knows both of you, and it probably will edit it in such a way that it's really going to stand out. And they're just going to have a higher response rate. The other impact is people are going to be more likely to respond, which means it's less time for each of those managers to recruit, and it's going to be more enjoyable because it's easier to start conversations, and therefore they're going to be more likely to comply because it just works better. The next would be scripts and messages for easy access. Have these ready, message templates, campaign templates, call scripts, in an organized way. They're much more likely to be successful, know what to say, and then it's going to be self-reinforcing. And then the next one is just provide help. This goes back to one of the common configurations or the challenges we hear is, well, I'm trying to get my manager to recruit. Then, okay, well, what else are they working on? They tell you all these other things. How many people do you want them to hire? And then what kind of help are you giving them? Whether it be, do they have an admin in the office? Is there someone who's helping with marketing, helping with recruiting? And frequently the answer is like, well, the margins have gotten a little tougher in brokerages, so it's hard to have that overhead. We're really just expecting them to handle it. We'll touch on it later, but we believe there's a very strong ROI to getting them that help, and because things will work better. So starting with marketing, pull in marketing. But I do want to comment. So if you have a marketing team, keep them very focused on demand generation versus branding. Okay. It's very easy. And we see frequently marketing people come from a world of, we just want to get the brand out, and they have vanity metrics like how many people viewed an email or a website. But at the end of the day, this is B2B sales. It needs to be focused on how do I generate leads, essentially, with variable compensation tied to it. The next would be admins at the regional or office level to just help with data, appointment scheduling, onboarding, office communications, right? Like that's one of the highest leverage things you can do. The next is manage campaigns. So we talked about these campaigns, right? Like a co-op agent campaign. If you give them the data, you give them the campaigns, that's part of it. But if someone is triggering it on their behalf and then they're just working their tasks, we've seen like amazing results from that. Okay. So an example would be, we talked about the co-op agent campaign. Say somebody, an admin in the office or regionally, a recruiter's triggering it on their behalf to all the co-op agents. All the emails and texts go out as them, okay, which is, it looks like they're sending the messages. So then somebody replies, it's going to go back to that manager. So then they're just kind of working their replies. And then when it gets to a task, it's going to go out, drop it in their task queue. Then they're just working their tasks. They log in each day. They're also going to get a daily email of what their tasks are. And it's just go through and, hey, call this person, follow up on social media, and it's got a script in it. It's going to be much easier to get them to comply. And then essentially they can really be effective with a short amount of time. And it's going to be easier to get them to do it, because it's like, if someone's helping them do that, they can literally spend an hour a day, go in, hit their tasks, do their replies, and get like really, really solid results. The next would be just regular coaching. So back to the results and activity, someone, whether it be a regional manager or national, just having regular one-on-ones with them where they're pulling up, we showed you essentially our scorecard and the system that's designed around it, someone meeting with them and coaching them, right? Because maybe they're getting blocked for different reasons, and giving them personal coaching. So maybe, for instance, one of the managers is he's getting appointments, but not closing them. Maybe someone else is good at starting conversations, but not taking it to the point of getting them into an office. Maybe somebody just needs to pick up their activity. Maybe someone really needs a different territory, bigger territory, different kind of data set. It's meeting with them and making that preferential coaching that's really going to elevate the results. The next one is just like recruiters, like have a recruiter who's like, break it into, instead of them being full life cycle in terms of recruiting those managers, have someone who break it into separate responsibilities of setters, appointment setters versus closers. And that manager is more of a closer. And then there's an appointment setter who's setting appointments, right? And you have separate setter and closer. And then that way they're really just working appointments. That can work well too. Very strong ROI. And we'll talk later how to do that ROI. And then the last one, we do have an add-on service we've added recently called Managed Recruiting Services to give you that extra help. You can reach out to us via our support team and we can inform you on that. And if you're not a customer, you can sign up for a demo and we can kind of cover that with you. Number 3, make it easy. 3 of 5. So we're 3/5 of the way through. So then the next one is give them activity targets. Okay, we talked about this a little bit, but if you give them specific goals, right, tied to activity targets, because leading in, if they're hitting the leading indicators, maybe they have a bad month and, maybe 1 month they hire no agents, but then 2 months later they hire 4. Well, if they hired 4, there were activities they did that predicted that, right? Because we talked about it before, but it's like, calls lead to appointments, which leads to offers, which leads to hires, which leads to productive agents. One of our strongest recommendations is activity equals results. It's clear. Ask them all to block out 1 hour per day. Okay. And it's hard for people to say they're too busy for 1 hour per day, but get them to actually go into their calendar and block it. And it needs to be in the morning and it needs to be blocked so that they can't say they were too busy because another appointment showed up. Go in and coach them and have them put it in there and make sure it's in their calendar, right? You need to give them kind of all the tools, but like they need to, know that this is a priority and you help them with that. And just in general, assume 30 to 50 calls a day. And it's going to depend on how many conversations they have and how good they are and how experienced they are. Just know that you're not always going to get through. You're going to get a lot of people that don't pick up. You keep calling, you need to call back. But know that the pickup rate in real estate is, especially for agents, is it's certainly higher than trying to like call people in a corporate job or something like that. Their business revolves around their phone and being approachable. So we recommend 30 to 50 calls. Now let's take it into what does that manager actually need to do to hit that number, okay? So think of it as a funnel. We talked about the funnel. You need to know your conversion rates, and they're going to be different by person, right? And this is where the tailored coaching comes in place. But let's just start out with it. What is their appointment to close rate, right? And that dashboard that I showed you, our activity report, which is really your scorecard, helps you really figure this out because you can export it to a spreadsheet, look at longer timeframes, and kind of figure this out on average and by person. But first question is, what is their close rate? Say either they get an appointment or someone generates one for them. How often do they close it? Okay. So let's assume it's 40%. Okay. It could be 25%. It depends on how experienced they are in their aptitude with this, right? And obviously your brokerage and your value proposition can impact that as well. Being a unique and differentiated value proposition really helps. So then, okay, out of the appointment set, how many actually show up? So let's assume a 60% close rate. Then let's say how many start a conversation with someone, how many end up with an appointment, okay? So that conversation could be started via an event, all the things we talked about earlier, an event, call, text, email, or social media. Somehow that conversation leads to an event. So let's just say 10%. I said 30 to 50. I'm going to just put 40. So then back to, we set our goal of that manager needs to recruit 2 people a month. What does that actually mean? Okay, well, if the show rate is 60%, that means, or excuse me, the close rate is 40% on appointments. That means they need 5 appointments to hire 2 people. And know that they may not exactly land in the same month, right? But if you're doing this consistently, you have an appointment this month, if your close rate's 40%, it may not be in 2 weeks. It may be over a couple months, but on average, it kind of works itself out across months. If there's a 60% close rate, then they need to set 9 appointments to have 5 show to close the 2. Okay, well, if they convert 10% of conversations into appointments, how many conversations do they need to have? To get those 9 appointments, they need 87 conversations. And then to have those 87 conversations, how many calls do they need to make? Now, this is a little skewed because this assumes the only way to start a conversation is calls. But assume that, right? That means 500 calls. And if they can make 40 calls in an hour, that means they need to make 29 a day, essentially, which is less than an hour, okay? So this kind of falls within that range, right? So if you look at that, these are the goals. To do this, you need the data, which is what the activity reports around. It's designed exactly kind of around this problem set. But in general, right, if they're hitting those numbers, right, if they're making these calls, assuming these conversion rates are right, that's a reasonable expectation to hire 2 a month. Now, if you play with the variables, say you want them to hire 4 a month, something's got to give. Like, you need to give them time, you need to give them resources. And maybe this is where, back to the business case, like if you want to go from 2 to 4, maybe you hire the recruiter who's then supporting several managers. The model kind of covers really what it's going to cost per recruit and what your ROI is. But the key is once you start doing this is you realize that there's only so much one person can do given what else there's assigned to them. Also assumes not everybody's equally efficient, right? Because people have aptitude, just like not every agent produces the same. Other resources like tools, software that can help automate things has a super strong ROI. Good data, good lead sources, and also people to help will have a very, especially people that are kind of more administrative, lower cost people that can assist someone will have a super strong ROI with this. So that was hot principle number 4. The next one is around accountability. So what are some ways to drive that? Okay. So let me just start with number 1, adopt a best practice based operating model. The most common ones I hear of out there are EOS, scaling up, or 40X. If you're not familiar with them, like I'm a big fan of EOS, entrepreneurial operating system. If you go out to Amazon and Google, there's book Traction to get you started by Gino Wickman. Really recommend that. That's going to help you build out a model to like manage all this stuff effectively. And some of the best run brokerages we see are following one of those models, and it helps you bring clarity to a lot of the things we talk about. The next one is just a clear vision. Like, where do you want to be in 10 years? So BHAG, big, hairy, audacious goal. This comes from a guy named business guru Jim Collins from a book Built to Last, but it's been reused and you'll hear it in EOS and scaling up and all these. But where do you want to be in 10 years? A milestone on the way. Where to be there in 10 years, where do we need to be in 3 years? Okay, and some clarity there. Then the next would be a quarterly plan. Break it down from 10 years to 3 to 1 year, a plan for the year, and then by the quarter. EOS says like you're living in the 90-day world. 90 days is long enough to actually get things accomplished. You give people enough time, but they can really accomplish significant things within that time period. And it's not so long that things kind of drag on. So we recommend kind of like very detailed quarterly planning for your brokerage, for your region, for your managers. The next one is manage to a weekly scorecard. Now take that quarterly 90-day target, now break it down to what needs to happen by week. and give them specific targets that in the leadership team, what needs to happen, and the people that are supporting them. If there's a recruiting person, if there's marketing, they all have, things that kind of tie out to what needs to happen. If you want to hire, X agents per month across the brokerage, break it down by office, gives yourself some padding. If there's other support roles supporting it, give them associated ones and manage it. Meet weekly with that leadership team, hold people accountable, and track it. And that becomes, right, if you're doing this in a spreadsheet, it can be challenging. That's kind of one of the reasons we tried to build a system around this with Brokerkit, is help you do this at scale. The next is the leaderboards. Huge, that's, really, really big. I mean, it's going to get people excited, and accountability is a little easier when it's not just you holding people accountable. It's as a leader for your reports, it's their peers holding them accountable too. And just coaching, any kind of like regular coaching by a national or regional manager around these rocks, around the scorecards, going to really, really go a long way. So that is, let's see, hot principle number 5. And that is it for the hot principles. Back to you, Jenna.
Thanks, Jim. We have our key takeaways from this. Really set clear expectations, make it lucrative and fun, make it easy, make it, something that they enjoy doing as well. Set activity goals and drive accountability. We have our webinar exclusive. First of all, thank you all for joining us. If you would like to connect with our team and see how Brokerkit can help you with your recruiting strategy and how you can look at, igniting that manager accountability, scan that QR code. It'll put you in contact with our team, and we'll go ahead and get you kind of a personalized look at that. If you sign up by the end of the month, 2/29, it's a leap year this year, we'll waive your implementation fee, which is a $299 value. So scan the QR code and connect with our team.
Thanks so much. And then I think that's it. Now it's just Q&A.
We have one from Jennifer, Jim. So a good way to grow seems to be retain all my current agents. Do you have a way to automate follow-up after we bring them on board?
Yeah, absolutely. The way we've designed this is to help with recruiting, onboarding, and retention, right? Back to, to use a football analogy, the best offense is a good defense, right? If you really want to grow your business, focus on your own agents and helping them be successful, and everything else will kind of fall into place. But also, honestly, it's part of your value proposition. Word of mouth will get out there that this is a great place to work. People tend to be successful, and it'll be, you won't have to recruit people. You will be attracting people, which is, the ideal world. In Brokerkit, you have a recruiting and a retention side. When you go in and move someone to sign on the recruiting side, they're going to drop into the retention side in the onboarding queue. You can have onboarding campaigns, and then ongoing, you're going to have a way to manage your retention touches, follow up with them, and then back to the campaigns. In our library, we have some specifically not just on recruiting, but on retention, new and kind of current agents, as well as kind of that onboarding piece to help nurture, keep them engaged. At the end of the day, when we ask brokers what, that are effective at retaining their agents, it comes down to onboard them effectively, keep them engaged in activities with their office or the brokerage, and coach them to success in terms of production. Because if they produce, they're happy, it's a good culture, they will stick around and succeed. Regardless, whether you're doing this in a spreadsheet and Gmail or using Brokerkit, these are the things that you should be doing, and they're going to help you accelerate your growth and meet your goals. Thank you so much. And again, it's for multi-office, branch-based brokerages, but all these apply to other kind of team members within a brokerage also. Awesome. Thanks so much, everyone, and have a great day.